Yo, what's good, YouTube? In today's video, we're getting into my top 5 meta loadouts to use here in Season 6. There's been a lot of buffs, majority buffs, some nerfs. So we're gonna go over and give you guys all the best loadouts. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like for the algorithm, subscribe, notifications turned on, and let's get into it. All right, so the first gun we're gonna be getting into here today is gonna be a great long-range option. That's gonna be the MTZ556. This got a nice buff within the Season 6 update, getting us a nice increase to our headshot multiplier, making this thing more effective than it already was because it's an actual laser beam. So let's get it here and show you guys the best attachments. The first thing is going to be the muzzle. We're gonna go through on the quartermaster suppressor. This did not get touched or nerfed or anything within the update, so it's still perfectly fine to use. So I'd recommend for you guys to go ahead and use the quartermaster still on pretty much majority of your builds. The quartermaster is going to be our first attachment. After that, in the barrel section, we're gonna go through on the MTZ Clinch Pro barrel. This is going to be the best barrel in here still. There's no reason for you guys to go ahead and run the drifter heavy long barrel. While it does give you some more damage range and your minimum, your bullet velocity is only a 15% increase, whereas the Clinch Pro barrel has a 26% increase. That makes a large difference in game. You're really going to feel that when you're trying to take people out. It's going to be very, very noticeable having a better bullet velocity. You're going to be able to beam people out the sky, really just be able to take people out better without having to lead your shots as much. Makes you just essentially more accurate. So I'd go for this. After I'm going to go down to the underbarrel section, we can throw on the Bruin Heavy support grip as our go-to underbarrel. This actually works out very, very nicely. That's going to be pretty much like your go-to long-range underbarrel. If you guys want to have a little bit more mobility, you can actually swap that out for the paracord grip, and that'll be perfectly fine as well. So that's going to work out very, very nicely no matter pretty much how you're going to build this gun with the paracord or the Bruin Heavy. It's just going to work out either way. My preference, though, is going to be the Bruin Heavy. I just find it to be a little bit better here, considering I'm only using this as like my, resurgence, longer range AR. And we're, of course, making use of the iron sights, which I'll show you guys how not to use them if you want to use it on this specific build or want to use a sight. After that magazine, we're going to go throw on the 50 round mag here. Of course, there's no reason for you to not run a magazine on this gun. It doesn't make sense. If you are not running a magazine, you are doing it wrong. I don't care if you're playing solos, you're still doing it wrong. Throw on a 50 round mag. Lastly, we can skip the optic, go straight to the stock, and go all the way over here, basically to the back, which is going to be the MTZ Marauder stock. This is going to give us a nice increase in our recoil control, gun kick control, all the above. If you want to take a look at the detailed statistics here, get a nice 21% increase, 8%, and of course 8% increase. Very nice, and it slows you down very minimally. So this is going to be a great attachment if you guys want to run basically just this, run the iron sights, you can do that. Or if you want to take that off, you can go in here to the optics section and throw in something like a Jack Glassless, and this will still be relatively a laser beam like build. Jack Glassless is great for your firing aiming stability, so regardless if you run this or the MTZ Marauder, it'll be good to go. Next up is going to be the static HV. Surprisingly, this gun did not really catch much of a nerf. The STG, on the other hand, its other pretty much #1 meta counterpart, got a quite significant nerf, and I don't really believe it's going to be that useful anymore at range. I think that was definitely well needed, considering that gun was an absolute tank and it dominated long range Warzone. It was like one of the only ARs pretty much most people ran. So of course, first thing in here is going to be the quartermaster suppressor, and I'll give you guys a pretty much like the #1 best possible build for this thing that people were using to win the World Series of Warzone. So this is going to be an elite build right here. So quartermaster barrel section, we can just go ahead and throw on the Auger 840 light barrel. Ain't got to get too crazy with it. There's no reason to run any of these other ones in here. Like, we don't need more bullet velocity and range. I already think having 14 meters is still perfectly fine for an SMG. It doesn't matter if it says it like decreases your overall recoil control. We just care about the overall ability to be faster, as that's what we use in SMG for, is close range engagements. Or if you're trying to get from point A to point B, it is nicer to run around with an SMG in your hands as opposed to your heavy AR, LMG, sniper, etc., etc. So we have this on there. After that underbarrel section, what we're going to do is we're going to throw on the Jack Slash. So this is a fantastic attachment. It has been just really, really nice to run on this gun. It's one of the few SMGs that I will run the Jack Slash on. It just seems to work out really nicely. And of course, if you were watching World Series of Warzone at all, pretty much a majority of the competitors, or even the guys that won, Shifty, Hisoka, and Biffle, that won the World Series itself, they're just the most dominant team that's pretty much ever played Warzone. They were running the Jack Slash here on their build, so we're gonna go for that. I mean, it just works out great, so you can do that. Or if you really don't want to do that, throw in something like the DR6 hand stop. That'll be kind of like your other option right there, but you should just go for the Jack Slash. After that, we're gonna go to the optics section, and we're gonna go throw on the Jack Glassless. This is a little bit more personal preference. You guys can run the jet glassless. You could run something a little bit farther down here. We can run like the slate reflector. That's still a great option as well. I don't think it's as clear just because it's more of a rectangular sight, not a square or a circle, and so it's got a little bit less of a see-through on it in that aspect. You can go down here a little bit, which is going to be to use a Night Model 2023, which will be one of my personal favorites to run on any of my static builds. I've ran that so many times on pretty much any of my static builds. So the Night you could run, like I said, you can even run the MK3 reflector if you wanted to. The optic is a little bit more personal preference, but we're just going to go in here and run the jet glassless, as that is working out great for a lot of people. Stock section, the last thing we're going to go throw on the Spry 34 light stock, and this will be the last attachment here for this build. I mean, it works out great. It didn't get nerfed or anything like that, and it's still going to be very mobile. So you can run basically your exact same static build that you would before the update, or if this is not your static build, now you got a great one. Next up, we're going to take a look here at the buffed MCW. I think this may possibly take the place of the STG. It's very possible given its very low recoil, great fire rate, magazine size. It's a very good candidate to throw in there. And also the Holger 556 got buffed, but I only have so many slots here in this top 5, so that's another great AR to use as well. But first thing in the muzzle category, we're of course going to go throw on the Quartermaster suppressor. I mean, it's just the Quartermaster, so we're just going to throw this on here as always. I think that's just still the best attachment to run on pretty much all of your guns. Barrel section, we have a lot of options in here, but realistically speaking, since we're not using, of course, the jack conversion kit, we're going to be just using the 16.5 MCW Cyclone long barrel, which will give us a nice increased bullet velocity and range, aiming auto sway, and of course firing aiming stability. This thing got a nice, if I look at the patch notes here, a mid damage range increase up to 50.8 meters, up from 44, and then it got a mid damage range increase from 60 meter, like up to 60 meters from 53. So a pretty sizable buff increase to its mid damage range, which is where probably a lot of gunfights are going to be taking place. You're not going to be out the very far end of it. So it's going to be a lot more effective there at those mid ranges. So this will be a great barrel for you guys to run. After that, going down here to the ammunition side of things, we're going to skip the underbarrel section, which you guys actually can do. I'll go back here real quick. So underbarrel, you can throw on the Bruin Heavy if you want to be more stable. But if you, like, let's say don't really want to run a Bruin Heavy, then you can skip over that and go basically into the ammunition side of things. So Bruin Heavy is perfectly fine. If you don't want to run that, it's okay. You can go down here and run the 5.56 NATO high grains, which will boost out your bullet velocity here a little bit. So it'll just make you more effective at range, pushing out to over 1,000 meters per second in bullet velocity, which is really, really good. So you guys can use that and be even more effective. Keep in mind, you'll just have a little bit of that recoil. So just kind of see what it works for better for you. Bruin Heavy versus high grains, totally personal preference at that point. The build's still going to be great otherwise, or I should say regardless. Next up, we're going to go throw on a magazine. That's going to be the 60 round drum. So I mean, listen, the 60 round drum is going to be the way to go. I'm a 60 round mag kind of guy, so I like going for that 60. I actually have ran the 40 just for like a video when I was trying to make a gun conversion to something for Black Ops 6, and it did work out pretty nicely. So the 40 is still not bad, but I just do think as a primary AR, since you're just trying to make it meta, just go for the 60 and pretty much call it a day. Lastly, optic section here, the Tried and True Jack Glassless. You guys could throw on that Choreo Eagle Eye if you want to. I will say that the Jack Glasses is going to be better for the high grains, versus you can run the Jack Glasses or the Choreo Eagle Eye when you have that Bruin Heavy, because you're not going to have nearly as much recoil. I shouldn't say nearly as much. It'll be, of course, less recoil because it's not going to be kicking as much, but I would just say that, you know, run the Bruin Heavy and run the Jack Glasses or the Choreo Eagle Eye, versus if you got the high grains, probably stick to your Jack Glasses, as that'll be your best bet. That's just kind of like my thing. That's what I would go with. So this can be your full updated buffed MCW build. Now jumping in here to an SMG, I want to give you guys a build here for the Superi 46. So this is still basically your #2 SMG in Warzone. It didn't actually even get buffed or nerfed. It's still just really good, and you can have the correct build for it, which will still decrease your damage range a little bit, but it'll make it so you're just flying around the map. So you can decrease that space between people, and that decrease in damage range doesn't really matter. So first thing, of course, Quartermaster Suppressor. After that, like I said, we're gonna go speed this thing up. So we're gonna go for that Bore 99 short barrel. So I've seen a lot of people either run no barrel and they go for maybe high grain rounds, or maybe they just run the Bore 99, but you, of course, like I said, you lose a little bit of effective damage range, so it's not as good, but the fire rate is still pretty solid. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I mean, you could run this and be a lot faster, which is going to be the way I like to run this gun because it's the fastest SMG in the game. So I want to be able to utilize that as much as possible. And with, you know, of course, my attachments, and the Bore 99 will help me do that. Underbarrel section, couple options in here. Jack Slash is something I've seen people run on this thing. Not my personal, you know, cup of tea. It's not like what I like to go for. I actually enjoy going for the DR6 hand stop. I find that to be absolutely incredible. It gives me more aim down sight speed, aim walking speed, of course, sprint to fire speed, and movement speed. Really, really good. So I think this is definitely something solid you guys should be running. After that, magazine, we're gonna go throw on, of course, the 40 round mag. This is, for you guys that are wondering, this is just one of the black cell variant magazines. I've just had this saved as a blueprint. You guys can go equip it for yourselves if you want to, but otherwise I still have that one of the weapon prestige camos on there. So the 40 round mag is definitely the way to go. And lastly, in the stock section, a couple options in here if you'd rather have a little bit more strafe speed. Jack Cutthroat is going to be your way to go. Keep in mind your general movement speed, which is actually behind my face cam there, at 5.7 meters per second, which is not going to be as fast as if you go over here to the Rescue 9 stock and you bump it up to 6 meters per second in movement speed. So basically, the Rescue 9 is going to make you the absolute fastest in your overall movement speed capabilities, which, I mean, you will be basically faster than any other SMG in the game right now. So I would say to go for the Rescue 9, and then if you want a little bit more of that strafe speed and you can sacrifice a little bit of your movement, go for the Jack Cutthroat. But I believe its strongest suit is its movement and be able to bob and weave around people. So Rescue 9 is gonna be the way to go. And here is your full build for the Superior 46. And for our final gun here today, like I said, the Holger 556 is incredible, and that got a really nice buff. But also so did the SVA 545, making it more effective at range. If I take a look at its near mid damage range increased up to 50 meters from 44. That's a nice 6 meter increase, which is a pretty sizable thing that you'll notice in game. And of course, this is a really good gun to use as is, so it just got even better. Now we're gonna go throw on, of course, the Quartermaster for our first attachment. Barrel section, this is pretty simple. The STV Precision Barrel. All the rest of these in here don't really make sense. Like, no one's gonna make this into a close range gun. It just realistically does not make any type of sense no matter how you look at it. So the STV Precision is gonna be the way to go, make you more effective at range. Next up, we have two options here. Basically, your underbarrel if you want to go throw on the Bruin Heavy support grip. If you plan on running this thing in fully automatic, I would recommend for you guys to run the Bruin Heavy. That's going to be just better for overall recoil control and stuff like that. But if you want to run it basically, and it's the single shot, or people like to call it the burst, because the first 2 bullets fire basically faster if you've ever tap fired it in fully automatic. You know what I'm talking about? Or you just put it into single fire. You can basically 2 burst it, like 2 bullet burst. So you can run this in fully auto with the Bruin Heavy. You can do that. That'll be great. Or my preference is to go down here and throw on the 5.45 high grain rounds and run this in burst. And this thing genuinely in your burst will not move. It's got so little visual and overall recoil. You can run this and basically not touch your analog stick and it will not move. So the 5.45 is going to be the way to go for that, and it pushes you out to 1,000 meters per second in bullet velocity, and your effective damage range is way up. On top of the buff, this thing is going to be seriously lethal. Magazine, we're going to go throw on the 60 round mag here. Naturally, no reason to run the 45. I mean, it doesn't matter if you run this thing in burst. Just run it the 60. Just run the 60. I mean, I don't know what we're doing here. Don't ever go for that. Even if you're playing like solos, I just always go for the 60. It's simple. And lastly, optic section, couple options in here. Jack Glassless is going to be my preference on what I like to go for, just because I play primarily Rebirth Resurgence, Vondel, or Vondel, whatever you want to call it. But that's going to be really awesome. Or you can go down here a little bit, add on a different optic. It's going to be a little bit farther down. And of course is going to be the Koryo Eagle Eye 2.5x, because this thing has such little visual recoil. It's one of those guns that will be great for bursting people at a bit of a distance. So the Koryo can work out quite nicely. So definitely run that, or run your Jack Glassless. Up to you. But this has been my top 5 here after the update. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like for the algorithm, subscribe so notifications turned on. Check out this other video on screen, and I'll see you all next time.